AMI was founded to become a portable fuel cell company. And we started about 7 years ago with some work with the U.S. military to replace batteries for the soldier.
Well, let me ask you this, because we were kind of coming back at the very beginning of the conversation, and you were talking about price points and, you know, replacing the $15,000 generator with the $5,000 fuel cell. Well, so if I think of something that costs $5,000, okay, now that's obviously batteries are being sold. I mean, we've got batteries running the microphone here under $1. Okay,
Batteries are great.
Right,
Absolutely.
so it's a big difference then in price. And so are you looking ultimately to move into markets that, you know, are not necessarily where you're replacing the $15,000 generator?
Oh, sure,
okay.
sure. I mean, everybody has a curve, right? So
Right.
your first adopters in the marketplace always pay a premium.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
the first personal computers were really expensive.
Yes, I remember those days.
And there are only a few of them,
Right,
right?
right.
However, as the price comes down, the volume goes up.
Okay.
You can argue which one's the driving factor on that one.
Right,
But it's a simple supply and demand thing. So we'll start at the high-end niche markets
right,
where you're right, your camera, you're sitting in this very pleasant office, we're under a roof, it's a nice day, you're only going to film for an hour, you can use a AA
Right.
battery, it works great.
right,
Now, if you wanted to give the same interview and you wanted to give it out on the Serengeti,
right,
75 miles from the nearest hut,
right.
what battery are you going to use?
Well, this particular one, as it turns out, will run for 500 hours. But your point is well taken. To run the camera,
Sure.
that battery lasts maybe an hour.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
maybe.
Exactly. So we're not about replacing the 500-hour battery in the microphone. That would be kind of silly.
Right,
But you talk about a 1-hour camera battery, and suddenly there's a driving force. And that would be your early adopter niche market. So the first person you sell to is the National Geographic photographer.
okay,
And you only sell 100. How many National Geographic photographers are there in the world? 100?
right,
So there's your first market.
right,
But in the course of building 100, you can probably reduce the cost dramatically because you begin to learn, you learn your process, you get your scale up and your volume, and now suddenly they cost $1,000 instead of $5.
right,
What new market does that open up? And then you talk about, well, television cameras.
oh, there we go.
So there we go. Now suddenly that's a market of tens of thousands of units. It's still a very high premium price because you have a nice camera there, but it probably costs a few $1,000s, whereas a television camera costs tens, easy.
That's
and
right.
now suddenly, another new market, and you got volumes of tens of thousands, which means once again you move down that price volume curve,
Right,
and that means your demand kicks up because you open
Yes.
up new doors on new markets, and you just keep following the escalation. So the nice thing about being a small business is we can do that, because for us $1 million customer is huge.
yes,
Whereas if you're General Motors and you're trying to make a fuel cell car, for example,
right,
if you make 10 million cars a year, if you don't build 1 million cars,
yes,
it doesn't really impact what you do. So you talk about a niche of 1,000 cars, it isn't even worth GM's time to build them. So one of the things we did when we segmented up the market space when we looked at the fuel cells was, you know, fuel cells, you can do utility scale power generation,
right,
and they build a new power plant every 30 years,
right,
and it has to run for 60 years,
right,
and it'll cost $50 billion.
okay,
Probably not an attractive first market for a company of one person, right?
exactly,
Thinking it's not a very successful opportunity. You look at the automobiles, and everyone likes to, automobiles are often maligned, right?
right,
It's a $20,000 device
yes,
that runs 24/7, starts and operates in any condition from snow, rain, hot, dusty, windy, whatever. Costs $20,000. It has an incredible amount of technology on it, and it's been iteratively improved for 100 years.
true,
And it's a $1 trillion industry. So if you sum up Toyota, GM, Chrysler, Ford,
Right.
and everybody, it's $1
Right.
trillion.
wow, okay,
So we're probably not going to be able to make great inroads or successes in that space as well. And here you buy a car every 3 to 5 years,
yes,
but you get portable electronics, and everybody goes to Best Buy and buys something and throws it away.
yeah.
You probably have a couple video cameras at home, don't you?
Well, no, that's true. There was a little experimentation process in getting to
Sure.
this point.
Sure. So, you know, you'll buy a laptop every year. You'll buy an electronic gadget every year, and when it breaks, we don't even think about fixing it.
Right. Just
You may
getting
swap out a component,
Right.
but you would never fix it.
Right. True.
And that creates a whole mindset of, it gives you a rapid adoption cycle. So
Okay.
you have a chance to bring products in, fuel cell products in several times a year versus once every 5 years.
Okay.
And the mentality is if it's broken, throw it away.
Right.
You don't have to worry about warranty and support and all those other things. You can actually go to more of a disposable product line, which will also
Yes.
help a small business be successful.
How you're talking, it sounds like one of the areas where you see an opportunity then is consumer electronics. Now, you started off with DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
Very nice. Yes.
So what I'd like to discuss how you've gone about finding customers and you've been bootstrapping the company, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a pretty firm believer that in business, it's a pretty simple equation. If what you're pitching has value, you'll be able to find money
Okay.
because it should be an overwhelming opportunity. If it isn't, then you didn't do a very good job establishing the necessary price point, market, adoption rate, partner, whatever it takes to make that compelling story. So for us, we started with DARPA, and this was back in the days when it was me.
Right.
Wrote a proposal to DARPA,
Right.
myself and actually my thesis advisor from the University of Michigan. We were selected for funding because we had such an aggressive and literally wacky idea
Okay.
that we fit the operating modus operandi of DARPA, which is fund the high risk, high return stuff.
Okay.
Because if it's really aggressive, but there's a high potential payoff, it's worth investigating. And then we were just very fortunate to hit the milestones and then be able to pitch a second round.
Okay.
That also we hit the milestones. And then we started talking to the Army and the Special Forces and the Air Force, the Marine Corps, and all the other organizations within the military to look at what their needs would be and their potential markets or what's the right word? Markets actually within the military.
Now,
And
are
we've just
you
since
on your
grown.
way to producing products for them?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
We're at the stage now where we do evaluations and field trials with the military. So we produce 5, 10, 30 units, ship them to them. They
Okay.
test and evaluate, and they learn a couple valuable things. They learn that a fuel cell can work, that you can use other fuels beside hydrogen, so you can actually get your fuel.
Because people are kind of stuck, having heard about fuel cells before. They think hydrogen, they think
Yep.
platinum, they think the whole thing.
Absolutely. And this is an opportunity for them to actually get a fuel cell, turn it on, and try it,
Right.
and learn.
Okay.
Because the first market isn't going to be the market that AMI envisioned, because we're not the users. We build fuel cells, right?
Okay.
The best thing we can do is get fuel cells into people's hands, and that's where the exciting markets really take off, because people don't care what a fuel cell is. They care what a fuel cell can do for them.
Okay.
We care what a fuel cell is and what it can do,
Right.
So now when you give it into the hands of the people who evaluate their needs and opportunities, then you get the really exciting markets.
Have you been pursuing partner strategies at all at this stage?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Back to my earlier comment about BASF.
Yes.
BASF doesn't make the something, they make it work better.
Right.
Adaptive Materials, AMI, our company, doesn't make the application. AMI builds something that generates electrons.
Okay.
Those electrons are used to power something that the customer thinks has value. If
Okay.
you think charging your laptops is valuable to you, then you could buy a fuel cell to do that. So for us, we have to partner with the end user, not the end user, I'm sorry, we have to partner with the OEM that makes the product that has a value for the customer.
Okay.
So if,
Okay.
if we want to go to market, we need a brand, we need a distribution channel, we need the support, customer understanding, and marketing effort of a larger company, and we'll just help their product run better by making
Okay.
it run longer or faster or better, whatever's appropriate with the fuel cell.
Okay. That's it. So you're not trying to sell direct or anything like that at this stage.
I don't. You know, we're a 50-person company. I don't think we're going to be very successful selling direct.
Okay. Okay. So defense has been one of. Are there any other partners you can mention? I don't want to push you to.
Nothing that I want to mention
Okay,
right now.
all right,
There are several
all right.
things, but nothing that we want to
All right,
publicly talk
but
about.
stuff in the cooker. So
Oh,
you've
absolutely.
been looking at that particular strategy.
Absolutely.